Hello, and welcome to Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Tanner Anderson, Assistant Dean of the College of Graduate and Professional Studies. This season, we're exploring one big question: how did you get here? Join us as we uncover the inspiring, winding, and sometimes unexpected paths of Longwood University's graduate alumni, students, and faculty. Whether you're dreaming of your next step, reflecting on your journey, or just curious about the stories behind remarkable success, this podcast is your inside look at the transformative power of education, determination, and the Longwood spirit. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to welcome two amazing alumni from my graduate program and a fierce dynamic duo, Katie and Kim. Thank you for joining us on our next episode of GradCast Beyond the Degree.
Thanks. I'm so excited. And we're all here in real life. I don't think I can remember the last time we were all in real life. This is great.
Graduation day? Maybe?
Graduation, probably. Yeah, you're right.
It's been a minute.
Yes.
It's so good to see y'all.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Absolutely. So this season, you may have listened to a few of the previous episodes, but we're exploring the idea of how did you get here? And we especially want to hear from our alumni as they've been navigating their careers. And I cannot wait to talk to both of you more about your journeys into leadership. So let's go ahead and dive in. So you both went through Longwood's Educational Leadership Master's Program together. So what drew you to the program first? So let's dive in and start first with Katie. So you all both went through the Longwood Educational Leadership Master's Program together, but what drew you to Longwood's program?
So there were a couple things. It started with someone tapping me. Like I knew I wanted a master's degree, but I didn't know what I should do. And in the parking lot of my high school where I was working, someone was like, "You're coming to Longwood and you're going to do this leadership program." And then when I started learning more about the program, that hybrid format that let us do some flexibility online, but then some face-to-face interaction was really intriguing to me. I liked that idea.
Yeah, I agree. But for me, it was you, TA, an email and a conversation with you, and the idea that I could afford it through just like the payment options, because I was like, that's a lot of money. I don't want to do this. And you said, there's a payment plan. I'm like, oh, okay. So looking back, that was probably the thing that sealed the deal for me, and just the opportunity. I knew I wanted something. I needed something. I wasn't sure what I was looking for because I had zero aspirations for leadership at that time. And so
I remember.
Yeah, talking to you, I was
am
like,
never going to be a principal.
I do not want to do this ever. And here we are.
I think we've both said that line.
Here we are.
Here we are.
And I'm so glad that you are here. And I remember distinctly those conversations and talking through those very scary, should I do it? Is this the right time moments? But you all definitely brought me such joy throughout the program. And so it's wonderful that you found each other. So I guess I might remember this moment, but I'm really excited for you to share with our listeners. Do you remember the first time that you all met in class, and what might have been your first impressions of each other? And we'll start with you, Kim.
So I missed the first class because I was on this great adventure doing this like 12-person race out in Oregon. And so I missed the first class, but the first in-person class I was able to go to, I was just there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there were all these opportunities to like respond and share info and like answer questions. And I remember Katie talking. I was like, oh, wow, she's like, I'm a little intimidated by her. Like she knows her stuff. Like this was my internal dialogue, listening to her talk. And then some point in that semester, she sent me a message and it was very like, you're going to be my grad school best friend. And I'm like, okay. And then the rest is history. And I was like, all right. It was just like one of those, you're at the playground and someone walks up and is like, hey, you can be my friend. And I'm like, okay, I like that idea. That's how it felt. And I'm like, we're adults, very old people. And this is how this works. I'm like, this is great. I love everything about it.
And what's your perspective, Katie?
Oh, I did. I absolutely assigned Kim to be my friend.
Grad school BFF.
Yeah, it was a directive. But I started laughing because she talks about, I was listening to Katie talk and she knew her stuff and I was intimidated by her. But that was my train of thought listening to Kim talk. And I remember thinking like, I want to be her friend. She's so smart. And I don't remember what the discussion was, but I remember like thinking to myself, we should just start our own school, like me and that girl.
Do that.
And then I assigned us to be friends. And here we all are years and years later.
Well, and I'm so glad it happened when it did. So kind of a quick sidebar. So if all this unraveled in that first semester, thank God it did. What happened in the second semester?
OMG. We're in the middle of geopolitics and we are in a real life like crisis in the world, and the world shuts down and we have to do school and life in grad school online. Like it was wild.
Okay, it was also wild that you both just said wild
At the same word at the same time.
But it
It's crazy.
was. And so thankful that you all found each other in that initial semester. So then it translated itself into that weird shutdown period where you had your assigned BFF and you were able to continue the work with someone to lean on. So do you have a favorite memory from the program? Maybe something funny or unexpected? And I'll start with you this time, Katie.
Of course, because I'm not prepared. During the pandemic, when we were having those virtual classes, the first however long was always like a check-in, a pulse check, I think is what you used to call them. And I remember my husband kind of listening in the background from the other room. And after class was over, him saying like, y'all are just a group therapy for each other. And it was so accurate, especially at that time in the world and in education and in all of our careers. So I don't know that it was unexpected or funny, but it was probably my favorite moments were those like check-ins and those opportunities to understand that our cohort represented the whole Commonwealth, I think. We even had someone from higher ed, someone from corrections. We really had a wide variety. So it was nice to hear it's not just us. It's not just me.
I remember there was one moment, and it is pandemic related too, where we would do check-ins during the week, like off peak of our class schedule. And I just remember sitting there one day, I'm like, I don't even really care if I pass this school finance class. I'm just going to go paint the walls because that's what feels good right now. And you're like, you got to do what you got to do. And it was just one of those like real moments where, again, not funny or unexpected, but just a memory of the level of support that you provided to our cohort and just continue to provide to us all throughout. But it was just one of those take care of yourself moments. And yes, this is important. And this graduate program is important. These classes are important. And I did swimmingly well in school finance. But I, at that point, was just like, I don't really care. Like, just how do I take it over is really what I was like. Let's go paint.
Well, and it was a
Paint the
lot.
walls.
It was a lot. And I always say that was our unsanctioned, unlicensed group therapy because I am not a counselor. However, sometimes just having an opportunity to talk through all of the insane things that are happening in our careers. And you're right, Katie, having people from all across the Commonwealth was really helpful because especially in the middle of a crisis, hearing what your cohort colleagues were experiencing, I think that was really helpful and therapeutic in many different ways. So both of you kind of mentioned that there was a moment that you decided, like, maybe I will step into this unknown, this leadership challenge, not necessarily knowing where it might take you. Is there a defining moment that maybe set you on the path explicitly towards leadership? So you both said, yeah, like I'm going to get a master's, and maybe somebody tapped me, or maybe I was just thinking through it. But was there a turning point perhaps in the program that really changed your perspective and set you on the path that led you where you are today?
I'll go first. For me, it was a closed door that just kind of pushed me in the direction of wanting to pursue leadership opportunities. And I think looking back, I had some misplaced frustration. It was good, helpful frustration. But I think there was a moment in our program where you had some sitting APs and principals come, and they were talking about the impact that they made on families and teachers and communities. And I thought, okay, I think I do want to do this. And I know I was absorbing everything, and I loved the drive to Farmville, which is one reason why I was extremely happy to come today, because I'm like, this is like the best thing ever. But it was also one of those moments where I thought I have a lot that I can contribute in a way that is beyond my classroom. And I was comfortable and cozy in my classroom. And I tell people all the time I would go back to teaching today. Like if I could keep my pay and teach 8th grade English and reading and get people to love reading, I would do it. I am also making a lot of impact doing what I do now in a broader way. So I see that I had to kind of move out of those four walls to get here. But it was definitely the push of a closed door, of not being offered a leadership opportunity, a smaller one, and then also hearing people talk about the impact they were making. And it was in smaller communities than where I'm in Northern Virginia. And at the same time, I thought, wow, I can do that. I want to be a part of that. So I think that was defining for me. Yes.
That's awesome. Katie, how about you?
This is going to sound, especially after that answer, really silly and really trivial. But for me, there was always a lot of self-doubt and a lot of imposter syndrome and those sorts of things that were really holding me back and preventing me from even out loud or to myself saying, like, I want to do that, right? And this is going to sound so silly, but there was a moment when I was doing my internship for the program where I was somehow in charge of the homecoming dance. We won't talk about it. It was a hard ride. But there was something, I think it was permission slips for students who were bringing guests that didn't go to our school. And a lot of them were getting turned in the night of, and they weren't supposed to. It was supposed to be this whole advanced approval, whatever. And I brought a stack to my principal, and I was like, hey, you need to approve these, and handed them to him. And he goes, Katie, I trust you to make these decisions. And it sounds like such a small thing, but that verbal articulation from someone who was so good and who I respected so much and who I wanted to be like a little bit, don't tell him that, but having that verbal, like, you can make this decision, I trust you here, kind of gave me this initial spark of, oh, I can do this. I could really do this. And it allowed me to admit out loud to myself, to others, yeah, this is actually what I want because someone else thinks I can do it.
Absolutely. And thank you. That's very powerful. And don't worry, we won't let him know.
Yeah, we can't tell him. We can block him from listening to this, right? Like he can.
No, I'm definitely going to send him a message after this.
Great.
But I love hearing about unexpected nudges and the idea, Kim, that you mentioned a closed door actually opened one. I think that that's powerful. And I think that that happens more often than we realize, especially hindsight gives us much clearer a picture. But both of you were teachers before moving into administration. And I don't want to just say both of you were teachers. You were both rock star, like changing lives teachers. And I remember very, very distinctly early on when I transitioned from teaching into administration, how many naysayers there were because you were taking a good teacher out of the classroom, right? And you both mentioned the impact that you're able to make in a different way as administrators. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your time in the classroom and that magic that you work, but also how when you transitioned into administration, you didn't lose that enthusiasm or that magic. It's actually fueled you. So if you could tell me a little bit about that, and I'll start with you, Katie.
Such a big question,
Yeah.
right? And so I remember thinking about the relationships that I built with students in my classroom. Sometimes they were through adjusting curriculum. I also taught English, adjusting curriculum to make it really relevant to kids and watching that spark with them. But I remember a particular student who was having a lot of behavioral challenges in the school. And so the response that we came up with was to put that student in my honors class. And the thought behind it was, well, Katie can connect with this kid. And maybe if we put him in this honors class, there's a little bit extra motivation there because there's no one to show off for, right? And it worked. And it was just a completely different human sitting in read a book, wrote a poem, like just a very different human sitting in my room. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is one kid in my little classroom. But imagine the impact that I could have if I was able to form these kinds of relationships in really low stakes way. And that, I think, was a defining moment for me, is watching that relationship and the impact that it can have, right? And how I can help inspire other teachers to do the same. I don't know if I answered your question.
You absolutely
Okay.
did. Yeah, definitely. Kim, how about you?
So I spent my time in the classroom as a special education teacher for 14 years, and I worked in self-contained autism classes. I worked in co-teaching settings, and every role I've had as a teacher, I have been able to use those experiences as a leader. Whether it is talking to families in these situations, whether it is coaching teachers, giving them resources, saying, I used to do this. So it's not this removed experience for me saying, as a leader, go do this. And I'm like, no, I did this. I understand like how much work this is. I understand the sacrifice you have to make. I have a child with an IUP, so it's not just me as a teacher or an administrator. I am a parent living this. And so I think all of those things, none of those things that I was like, oh yes, let's check these boxes in my life. Like I didn't go pursuing these things. I just kind of walked into those positions, have helped me to be a credible leader in the roles the role I'm in now, especially as an assistant principal in a very large middle school. I'm sitting in meetings with advocates all the time, and I look young. And so I think sometimes people don't think I know what I'm talking about, and then I say things and then they don't say anything back because they know I know what I'm talking about, from not just like an administrator who went and got a degree and sat in a training, but I live it and I have lived it. And so I think I loved teaching English and to students who very rarely passed SOLs and very rarely exceeded benchmarks and were on this upper track for acceleration. Those are my people. Those are people on my team, as we call them at school. We're like, that person's on our team. But I think one of my favorite things that I got to do was like introduce kids to authors like Jason Reynolds and using Long Way Down. I will always tell, and I met him in person. He's a good friend.
God, did you really?
He's like, okay, so
I can't even handle
side quest. So one of my best friend from college was best friends with Jason Reynolds. And when she got married, he walked her down the aisle and I was a photographer and I was fangirling the whole time. And then she sat us at the table together at the reception. I was like, I can't even breathe. I can't even eat.
Oh my God.
And he's like, how you doing? And we was just having this conversation. So I have been in presence of Jason Reynolds in multiple like social settings.
I can't handle it.
That's beautiful.
I also taught Long Way Down, and I used to tell my students, like, don't tell the author of this book, but he's my husband. And then they'd get all like dramatic about it.
So nice. And so Long Way Down. And then it's like, and then you have to read the track series.
Obviously.
And there's going to be a new one. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah.
We also did. Did you catch his Right series during the pandemic? Oh my God, it was so good. Little writing prompts.
Pandemic times.
So gotta recommend. Sorry, we've really gotten off topic.
Yes, but Long Way Down connected. If a kid was like, I don't want to read, I'm like, no, this is where you start.
Yeah.
Because you'll finish it in 30 minutes. You're like, what's next?
And then you'll be mad about it.
Yes.
Like you're going to have some big feelings.
So many feelings.
Anyway.
So I loved getting to reach kids in ways that they didn't think that they could be reached. And just, I don't know, I had a lot of really good classroom experiences.
And I love that you've been able to translate that into your administration. And so both of you with an amazing background experience in teaching and teaching English, the former English teacher that warms my heart. Mm-hmm. And I love you both geeking out over authors and their work. That brings me such joy. But I'm also just really interested to know was there an adjustment moving from the classroom? Spoiler alert, yes. But perhaps your biggest shock or the biggest adjustment that you had to make moving from the classroom into administration?
Katie, you went straight from the classroom to an AP. Yeah. I kind of had like a little bit of
on-ramp.
Yes, a little bit of a little side quest to it, but it's the path. So I was a dean first at an elementary school, at a new elementary school. Like I got this job as we were finishing up the last semester, and I was very excited about it. I love Lori Mercer, if she's listening. She was courting me very hard on the way to class that one last day. And I was telling you, I was like, what is happening? I think I'm going to get a job. So I got to help open a school. I got to help with like coming back to school after the pandemic, which was a whole thing. And just the excitement and the uncertainty and so many unknowns when you're opening a building. And then there's how do I manage all this stuff? Was the biggest thing for me. So I kind of got to practice that a little bit before becoming an assistant principal. And I still don't know how to manage all this stuff. 2 years, almost going into year 3, sorry. And so I think the biggest shock for me was just wanting to do everything well right now. And that is unrealistic. That is such an unrealistic expectation to have going into it, because even when you figure out a thing, there's a new thing. And then you're like, wait a minute. I didn't think there could be more new things.
Or the first thing changed.
Yeah, that part. So I don't know if shock is the right word. I think it's just this ongoing, there's always something. And when you start to feel settled, there's a thing, which is good because it keeps you on your toes. Like it doesn't.
It's a wave. You got to ride that
it
wave.
is- I like that. That's a good description of it. It is a wave.
And it comes in waves.
does.
I think for me, there were two, one more practical and one more conceptual, I guess. The practical one is just the sheer volume of communication. The texts, the emails, the calls, it's just continuous. And it's a part of my job that I love because I want to be engaged with my staff, with my students, with the school community, but it's also exhausting. And it's all the time. It's 5:30 in the morning trying to find substitutes. It's constant. And so learning how to manage and balance that was, I think, the practical one. The other more conceptual one is I started with wanting to do everything myself and do it well, but also wanting to put each individual first, if it's staff, if it's students, if it's whoever. And I had this moment where I had to recognize and to grapple with and come to terms with the idea that that's not my role anymore. My role is to put the building first. The 502, Kim's laughing at that number compared to her school. My 502 high schoolers and my staff of like 50, when you add it all up, the building came first. And I had to trust that I had the right people in place to put the individuals first. I don't know if that makes sense, but having to zoom out a little bit was an adjustment for me because I was used to the opposite of that. I was used to being the person who put the individuals first. And now I had to really build the capacity and trust in the capacity of the staff to do that side of it.
Can we talk about that number
Yes.
for a minute?
502?
Because that's about 50 kids less than our 6th grade class coming in this year.
Yikes. Yeah, it's a small school. It's a small school.
The 7th grade class is about 35 more than that.
I can't handle that.
And then the 8th grade class is about 45.
It's amazing. But also, I always say, whether you have a large building or a small building, you still have the same issues, the same paperwork, the same communication, right? The same things. And that is a whole lot of babies.
It's a lot of people in a building.
It is.
I think there was one day on the way to school, we talk in the mornings on the way to work. It's fine.
She can cold call me.
Yep. 7:15.
Anytime.
Call Kim.
Well, this summer I'm like off and running.
That's true.
When you call. And I'm like, maybe I'll call you back.
Maybe.
But
we always talk.
I felt like
Fine.
our friendship developed, it went to the next level when you can cold call a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they
100%.
answer.
And
then you talk.
And then you
20
talk
minutes.
the whole way. Yeah.
No, I love that. And I wonder too, in that transition. So Kim, you mentioned you had a side quest going through the dean of students and into the AP position where you sort of had, I guess, kind of like training wheels, right?
Yes.
Like you were able to sort of feel it out. And Katie, you also had another role straight out of the classroom. I'm interested if you might tell me a little bit about that role and how that might have shaped once you stepped into the AP position.
So I switched districts for a hot minute and I worked as an instructional technology and innovation specialist. The role was based out of school board office. It was supporting all 3 grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school. And so a window into the other levels, the other buildings, of course, and how they function. But the biggest eye-opener for me was how important the dynamic and the relationship is between building level leadership, administration, and division level leadership, your directors, your superintendent, et cetera. The partnership there, I learned how important it was. Like, you know how important it is, right? But then you live it and you learn it and you see it.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. I know that kind of meandered off on another side quest, but I was interested in hearing your perspective. So you mentioned there was a bit of an adjustment, a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm wondering if there was a leadership lesson that you learned perhaps the hard way when you stepped into the assistant principalship.
Gosh, there's so many. I think for me, it's this idea of the things that you stay up all night thinking about and stressing out about and planning for, they are never the problems. It's the things that pop up out of nowhere that smack you in the face. And so being just prepared and recognizing that you've got that toolkit and being able to like respond to things on the fly. I wasn't expecting that and had to learn those lessons, I think, more so than any one event.
I agree. And I think in those moments, what I have had to learn is to pause and not respond immediately. Because when I do respond or have responded, it has not come out the way I think it is. And so then I have to go back and backtrack and clean up.
Right, because you're reacting.
Yes. Instead of being proactive or saying, you know what, let me get back to you on that. Or I'm not in a position to answer that question right now. So it's really a lot of it's less about like knowing your stuff, also being emotionally aware of yourself and emotionally like, okay, am I in a position to do or answer this in a way that's going to be helpful to this person and maintain our like professional relationship in this moment, or is this going to derail everything?
Right.
So I think a lot of the things, and it's not even like hard things, like there have been harder things, but I think it's the people work that I learned the most from, and it's either a response or an action or a thought. Like it's more those interpersonal things that have been the harder things to navigate in the last couple of years, I think, of
And-
leadership.
And recognizing that there are some, but very few actual emergencies in education. And so you can almost always buy yourself some time as long as you're, like you said, willing to acknowledge that and to ask for it.
And I think that's the key. I think the communication piece and recognizing where you are in a particular moment and where whoever it is that you might be communicating with, where they might be sitting in that moment. And as long as you can reconcile that in sort of a peaceful, but a way that acknowledges kind of both parties, I think that that's huge. I remember sending an email, not really in haste, but in, I don't even know the best way to say it, almost just like I wanted to acknowledge that I hear you and I received your message, but we're kind of working on this thing. And I got a message back almost immediately that was just blasted me hard. And I remember responding because it's something that like sits right in my now response repertoire. And I basically just said, I'm sorry that my heart's intent didn't translate appropriately to you. That's not at all the situation. So I love the idea of being able to take a pause, take a moment, kind of regroup, and then be able to attend to what people need while also attending to what you need as well. So if you could go back to your very first day as assistant principal, so think back to that very first day where I'm sure you got up early and you probably went for a run or worked out and packed your lunch and we were super excited and you got there, opened up the buildings. Tell me a little bit about that first day, Kim, that first day, Katie. What advice would you give yourselves now looking back at that?
Are you looking practical?
I know,
or
like-
conceptual? Because like know where the breaker box is.
That's
Like
a good one
learn
to
that
know.
one. Learn that one right away.
Yeah.
Learn how to use my school bucks because do you know how many times I forgot my lunch and like couldn't figure out how to buy lunch literally? But I think no,
My
truly,
goodness.
like for real. But I think the bigger picture, which may be more of what you were going for here, is to have fun with the kids, especially in the AP role. My days are almost always disciplines and fires, not actual fires. That kind of thing, operations and managing the behaviors and there's a leak and there's all of that stuff. So if I could remind myself or advise myself to have fun with the students, because that's the point, right? That's why we're there. I started in my second year doing this thing that I call lunchtime research or cafeteria research, where we do these informal polls, but I present it to the children as like, this is very serious. I need your help. And then it's something so silly like, how would a dog wear his pants? Or
I
would
might
you-
have to steal that.
No, it's so fun. And I go,
Do that.
I have a lot less students, but I go table by table and we take tallies and it gets them talking. It gets me talking. They look at me like I'm crazy, but like just having fun with the kids and the adults, but mostly the teenagers.
I love that. Thank you, Katie. How about you, Kim?
Well, I kind of break it down into the first day with the teachers and then the first days with the kids because those are two like
Very different.
very
experiences.
different experiences. And I just remember like one of the things that I kind of felt like I was cheating because I was working at a school with people that I had worked with previously in some capacity. So I was not unfamiliar to a lot of them. And then the middle school, the feeder elementary school kids come to the middle school. So I knew of this almost 1,700 kids. I knew a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was nice because they were like, Miss Van Acker, this is great. And the families were like, Miss Van Acker, we're so excited. So there was already a warmth and like a welcome. So I didn't feel like new, yet new in the role. So first day with teachers, just really being personable. And I think that is something that I've always brought with me in terms of like trying to connect. Like I'm a big connector. I want to know your dog's name. I want to know your grandma that lives maybe near where I grew up. And I'm going to remember these random things in 4 years. And you'll be like, how do you know that? And it's like, I'm not a stalker, I promise. It gets in there and it gets stuck. And so I think I would do that same thing over again. Like I would go back and I would do that. I would go back and stay connected to the students. And I think that has helped me establish that relationship and rapport with people when I have to go have hard conversations with them, because I have to do that. And I've already made those deposits. So that I wouldn't change anything about that entry point into the role. I think with the students, I think the same thing of being present. We had to go and be a part of lunch duty as AP. So we had a block of time. And I got the short end of the stick because the middle lunch has both 7th and 8th graders. So I got to have them all. And it was like a lot of energy. And
a lot of hormones.
My AP team knew what they were doing. They're like, oh, you get 7th grade. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then a couple weeks into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not great. They're like, sorry. I'm like, okay, first year AP stuff. I get it. But I think just being present more and asking questions and I feel like that's an area that I can definitely improve on.
But you learn year after year.
This year, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do polls.
It's so fun.
I'm going to try that.
Goodness. I've got several. I'll send them to you.
I think that's an awesome idea. So you told me a little bit about your advice to your former first day administrator. So now think back to the program. Think back to, for those few short months, I guess, when we were all sitting together in Hall before the world decided to shut down and we were online. What advice might you give yourself as an administrator who has lived a couple of years in this role? What advice might you give yourself as someone that's sitting in the program unaware of what they're getting into?
None of it is in the book.
None of it is in the book.
None of it.
We won't talk about the test prep questions.
None of that is
None of it's in the book.
The stakeholders part is true.
True. Form a committee. Involve all your stakeholders.
Involve all your stakeholders.
All the people. Ask everybody what they think.
Twice. And make them write it down. Okay, no, but really.
Seriously.
I think you can't plan it.
No.
You can't plan it. And you want to plan it, and you get your little planner and your color-coded pens, and that is great.
And you put it on your calendar.
What is a calendar?
What's a calendar?
But truly, you got to just go with it. You got to ride the wave, whatever you want to call it, whatever analogy works for you. And remember that this program, while it's not in the book, has still prepared you. It's a toolkit.
I feel very prepared. And I think the book part, yes, the thinking around it and all of the activities and the preparation and the scenarios. And honestly, my favorite part was coming on campus and being around everyone and listening to everyone. I can be a talker and I have to sit on my hands to not talk with them. But I really practiced listening to what everyone else was saying and absorbing things. And I got my energy as a teacher when I would come back. I'm like, I need this time away from the people I'm with every day. But to be on campus that one Saturday a month, I'm like, can we do this every day? Can I come back? But really, honestly, listening to other people and the scenarios, and some of it was tedious. I was just like, I don't have time for this. I really don't have time. I think those were the practical things that we were able to do. And even now, I think about the mission vision, that particular project, we're getting ready to revisit that in my school now. Right. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this is a real thing that we did. I'm like, I would never do this by myself. And I'm not going to do it by myself. Right. I'm like, this is silly. But I have that practice. And I look back at those things like, man, I did all this in the middle of a pandemic.
While working full time.
With my children in the other room.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that about the projects, because I think that's another thing I'd tell myself, and I'm sorry about it, Dr. TA, but the number of times that I would a little bit roll my eyes when the assignment description, when the assignment description would be make a multimedia presentation or design a logo. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Just let me write a paper. Because I'm an English person. I want to just write it out. But the number of times in my real life job where I have made a multimedia presentation or designed a logo, and I was like, oh, I get it now. That is the practical.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not. That's it.
It's those things. And I don't really know what you were thinking when you thought of those things, but thank you.
I love that. And I think that's great feedback. Years later that you're able to come back and say that it's still making a difference in your lives.
I still don't know about that school finance.
So aside from the eye rolls that were intended or not, about project descriptions. Is there a book, a leadership book maybe that either from the program or in the years since you have graduated, or a podcast or any resource that you just swear by?
Longwood GradCast, Beyond the
Woo,
Degree.
Beyond the Degree.
Beyond the Degree.
And just finished Energy Bus.
Oh,
Liked
love
that one.
Love that.
Love that a lot.
I'm a Malcolm Gladwell
Yes,
enthusiast.
ma'am.
And Talking to Strangers is not necessarily a leadership book, but it's was one of the most transformative books for me. Love him. Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last, was a book that I recommend to everyone. Unreasonable Hospitality was a really good book.
I haven't read that
Also,
one.
it's really good.
Let My People Go Surfing. It's not education, but it's like the business world. Recommend that one.
Culture Code is also good.
What did we read in the Culture Eyes?
Culture
That was good.
Into a lot of admittedly, this is probably the least amount of reading I have done in a year. This past semester from January to June was insanely hard, and I think just from work being hard and home being home and trying to stay healthy and all those things and active, it was my ability to read and absorb anything other than the necessities was compromised. And I realized that when school ended, and I've now read 12 books.
Yeah.
And it's part summer mode, but it's also been I was reading this one book forever. I just finished lovely one, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and there's so many good nuggets in that book. And it's leadership, and it's politics, and it's all these things. And one thing she quoted Toni Morrison, "You are not your job, you are who you are." And I think in terms of a nugget that I could grab from a book is just, I go to work and it doesn't feel like work, and I'm waiting for that feeling to go away, and it's kind of when does it stop? But I enjoy the challenge of each new day, because I know it's going to be something. Because first of all, I'm a special education designee, so I'm in the autism room, or I'm responding to a bit call, or I'm doing a threat assessment. And I think knowing that I'm not AP, I'm Kim. I just get to do this really cool job that's also really hard and really, really frustrating sometimes. So I don't know. I think I just try to consume as many different things as I possibly can that are not just leadership, but then also I have fun books that I like to listen to in the car that hope people don't hear all the things that the book contains.
No, nobody needs to know about those audiobooks, Kim.
Yes.
It's all right. It's all right. So I thank you for sharing your recommendations. I think it's important for folks to hear that you're still avid readers. You poured that into your students years ago and continue to flourish as readers, but also with podcasts like this one and other resources. But I think you have mentioned, and I have seen it real time, you will lean on one another. So yes, you can lean on all these amazing resources written by other people and commentary provided by other people, but so often you cold call one another. And I guess I'm just really interested in how you've continued to lean on one another past the program, past that initial step into administration. You continue to find joy and support in each other. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Having someone who knows me and who knows the job and who gets it, right? And sometimes it's professional. Sometimes it's, hey, help me talk. Sometimes it's be my thought partner. Help me talk through this issue. Sarah's laughing at me. What are you going to say? Okay. Sometimes it's looking for a thought partner, someone to talk through issues with, to be a sounding board, right? For whatever is happening, whatever's going to happen. And sometimes it's personal. Sometimes it's needing life advice, needing a friend. This job is so lonely, and it's great, and I love it, right? And you never know what your day is going to bring. You never live the same day twice, but it's lonely. And especially in my setup, I'm the only high school AP, right? And it can get a little competitive. It can get a little political when we look at the division and other APs who I might know. Having someone who gets it, that you can talk to, and that's supportive, and that there's not this kind of secret underline, if I give her bad advice and we go for the same job kind of thing, right? Because it's support and it's friendship and it's real, and it's not just this facade.
I was going to say the last thing you said about the friendship part. It's felt like a natural friendship from the beginning, aside from
It being aside.
hey, you get to be my friend. Bing.
Welcome.
You know?
Welcome to the party.
I'm tapping you. And it was just like, yes, it's I don't know. It's hard to put into words because it's just that's my friend Katie.
And we challenge each other too. It's not just someone.
You're not my yes man.
Right. Like it's not just someone that we're calling for validation.
Yeah.
There's devil's advocate playing.
Yes.
There's, hey, I think you were wrong here.
Yes.
Or did you think about it like this? Like it's not just a warm fuzzy. It is
No.
warm fuzzies sometimes.
Yes.
But that's not the only role that we fill for each other.
No. And it's
raw. It's real.
I don't even know how this started. How do you even get here?
I don't know.
Other than that.
I assigned you.
You did, but now it's like.
Because I also don't think we were assigned together on a single case study. I really don't think we ever actually did an assignment together in the program.
I don't know, but now I want to investigate.
I
that.
really don't think we did.
Find out. I know we didn't have our when all of our research stuff.
Right. We were in the research groups.
We weren't together for that.
No, I don't think we ever actually did an assignment together, which makes this even more fun.
That's what I was going to say. I think it really speaks to the organic partnering, right? Like you all almost sensed something from one another's auras. It was like, I need you in my corner.
It was really cool. I like looking back. I'm like, okay, I like how that happened.
I love it so much. And I have really enjoyed watching it just grow into something that's magical. Y'all have been supporting one another for years now. And so I know you've talked a little bit about some of your transitions from leaving the classroom and into your first AP positions. Both of you have mentioned throughout the course of our time together today, trying to sort of manage it all and do all the things and be all the things for everyone. So can you share with our listeners today maybe how you manage the stressors? Some of them you mentioned earlier, but that work-life balance and the stressors that kind of stem from that. How do you balance that in your leadership roles?
Can I answer for Kim? Can I do that?
Tell me.
I love that.
I was really proud of Kim. Was it this year that you went to England?
last year.
Last year.
Yes.
Got an opportunity to do this really cool thing. We'll let her share the details, but had this moment where she was like, but my job, but my life, and chose life, took the time off work, did the things, right? Because it's so easy to be the job. And so to prioritize your own goals and interests and really exciting opportunities and choose a life.
Oh, yeah, I did do that.
I know you did it. I remember.
That's amazing, Kim.
Yeah. I mean, I ran a marathon and it was in the
then
middle
what
of
happened?
the school year.
Yeah.
And so I went to my boss in December. I was like, so I just got this email. She's like, you have to go. And I'm like, I'm going. And
That's incredible.
It was great. It was a wonderful family trip. London Marathon. It was awesome. And we spent several days jet setting around. But it was one of those things where it's the middle of the school year. It's like we're getting ready to go into SOL season.
Mm-hmm.
And should I really be out of the building for 7 days? Going to do that. So it was a good experience. I think aside from that, I think some things that I do feel like I do well is just kind of navigating my week and like looking at the beginning of the week. As a special education designee, there's so much paperwork and I'm in meetings a lot. And so I have to really prioritize like getting that paperwork done. And I get stuck when I'm overwhelmed. Like I don't do anything. It's like, oh, not doing that.
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so
It's real.
learning how to like balance that and like put time on my calendar, which I learned from another coworker that when I first started as a dean, she would block off paperwork time on her calendar. I'm like, I'm stealing that. And so I block off paperwork time. And I try to tell the front office ladies, I need closed door time. So unless there's somebody like running out of the building, please let me have this hour. So just calling on people and asking for help and saying, I need help. Like that has been something that I've had to do a lot too. Now, I didn't take off a lot of days this year, so I did not do well in that department.
It's all about balance. though,
It's
right?
all about balance.
Like maybe 2 days.
And there's a great, I think it was a speech that she gave at a graduation, maybe at Shonda Rhimes. And she talks about this myth of having it all. And she says, and this is what I have to tell myself, if you see her succeeding in one aspect of life, she's probably failing in another, right? She gives some specific examples about recording the last of a particular actress's scene on Grey's Anatomy means that she's missing the spelling bee that her kid's in, or if she's doing bath time, she's missing something else, those sorts of trade-offs. And so reminding myself that sometimes doing it all is a myth and it's okay to set something down. You got to know, what is it? Which balls are glass and which ones will bounce, right? And having to shift my mindset of I'm making choices, not sacrifices. has been big for me. I am choosing to whatever it is. And that means I don't get to the opposite, but I can flip that on the back end.
I think that's really
I like that
powerful.
a
I like
lot.
that a lot.
You should listen to her whole, like the full speech that she gives. Life-changing.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, because I think you're right. So often you're presented with a day. And I think maybe it was Kim earlier, like, you're going to write a list. It's going to be color coded, right? It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to tackle this list. And no, you aren't.
No, you
Bless
aren't.
your heart. And you will never get your to-do list done.
Ever.
No.
And so
done.
what do? You really shift this idea of priorities and making choices. And they're not sacrifices, they're choices. I love that. I'm going to have to listen to that. So thank you for that recommendation. And Kim, you mentioned that you just run some marathons, do some things.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Whatever.
And I have to say, when I first started running marathons, you
We
were the
talked about
first
it.
person I called
We
because
talked about
I was
it.
so inspired by you.
I was like, here, get this book.
So she recommended a book. She recommended like products. She set me up for success. And so I know that that's one thing that you have continued to prioritize over the years for your wellness. What else do you or Katie, might you share that you all just, what helps you at least try? I know there's no like magic solution, but try to manage burnout. What do you do to take care of yourselves?
Stress bake.
Stress bake.
bake.
And then
Do you
run
wanna
off the
stress bake
calories.
at my house?
Cookies. Chocolate chip cookies. I have a recipe that I
oven.
can share.
Okay, girl.
Or you could just share the cookies.
Right.
I do that.
I'm not going to cook them.
But the people in the office know when I'm stressed because I stress
That's
bake.
so
cookies.
funny.
Are you okay?
I support
Stress
you.
bake.
I support that.
How about you, Katie?
This is going to sound silly, but making it a point to live my life outside of my school building. We had twins, my husband and I, a handful of months ago, and we made it the goal, like even with them and even when it's hard, we want to do the things. Go out, explore the world, be people rather than just our jobs.
When I was in the classroom during the pandemic, I don't know if we're supposed to name drop, but Carrie Sims is also another great mentor of mine. But during the pandemic, she would also always encourage us to have like a sacred day on the weekend, because like it was this weird, when does the day stop and end? And it all ran together. And it was like, you look up and it's 7:30 and you're still sitting at your computer. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I love to clean, but I also like when people come and clean for me. But like every Friday in the pandemic, I would log off at 3:30 and immediately start cleaning. Like that was like my ritual. So like the house is clean as we're going into the weekend, but then she's like, have a sacred day. And so I try to adopt that even now. Like it's either I'm going to work on Saturday or I'm going to work on Sunday, but I'm not doing both. And sometimes you have to, like, it's just a season and I understand that. But for the most part, I try to adopt, I am in, like, one of these days is a day where I don't crack open the laptop because I have to step away from it and I have to have this time. So those are, in addition to stress baking, I have a sacred day on the weekend.
I think that's fantastic. I stress clean and it's a real problem, or it isn't. Like it could be so much worse, right? Like I could be crushing Cheetos. I don't know. And so very recently I was moving offices and my son was helping me and he found a sticky note that he placed there years ago underneath my desk that says stop stress cleaning, because he knows like if it's going to get real deep and crazy, I might be cleaning up under my desk, right? And we laughed about it because you got to do what you got to do.
You do. That's awesome. You do.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about managing sort of stress and all of those things and managing our roles. But Katie, I just wanted to take a second and celebrate the fact that you recently completed your capstone defense for your doctorate. And I believe that we shall therefore call you Dr. Jamrozy-Hamby.
Oh, it's so
Dr.
weird.
Jamrozy-Hamby. So can you tell me about that journey and what did you learn from it? And then what do you hope to do next?
I tell anyone who will listen and a few people who won't listen that this master's program prepared me for that doctoral program in ways that I can't even articulate, and more than I expected. In practical ways, like there were courses that we took that I took not again, but a different version of, and other people in my cohort, it was like blank slates. And I had that foundation. Research is one, school finance is the other, as much as you loved that class. So in the practical sense, this program prepared me really well. Additionally, the idea of like working collaboratively. So I did not do the traditional dissertation. I did a dissertation in practice that we called a capstone. That was a problem of practice. that we were meant to not solve, but address. And so there was a team. My team was 4. The smallest team, I think, had 3, and the largest had 6 people. So the collaborative work piece was a really big one. It was a big part of that journey because it started in the beginning and it saw our whole cohort through the entire process. So I learned a lot about the system, right? And a lot about partnerships across divisions and across school communities, I guess. My cohort was a blend of K-12 folks and higher ed folks. And so getting to kind of see a window into that other world kind of started me in thinking like, I wonder what working in higher ed would look like one day.
Excellent. Well, I'm so proud of you. And I always love hearing when our students graduate from the master's program, they find themselves kind of out in the field doing all these amazing things. They go on to get a doctorate. And just to hear that this program prepared you for success in a doctoral program, obviously just brings me such joy.
It did. And
I love that.
My capstone focus was on building and developing leaders in a particular school setting. And so that background coupled with that directive and that project was powerful.
I think that's fantastic. All right. So you obviously fangirl over each other, and I can't love it more. So I'm wondering if you might share with our listeners. I think you're both powerhouse women leaders, and I love watching you in action. But what is something that you admire about each other's leadership styles? And if you had to sum up each other's approach in 2 words, what would it be? And I'm going to start with you, Kim, this time.
2 words.
2 words.
Katie has it's this fierce kindness, like this great love for what she does. And I think it's evident in like the questions she asks and the things that really we talk about frequently. I'm like, that's kind of made an impression on you in a way that you can't like just like walk away from it. Because there's certain things that we don't talk about, but then the things that we constantly talk about, I'm like, that's sticking a little bit. So it's like this sponge for wanting things to be done well. And I think I really appreciate that about her, and that she's having to do this as a singleton, essentially. And I'm like, I have a team. There's a 4th one this year. There's so many of us in my building, including our deans. Like we have a robust admin team, and you have to do all of that thinking and decision making on your own. I mean, it just requires a level of like trust and confidence in yourself. So I don't know. I just said a lot of words.
Yeah, that was not 2.
Appreciate all that about you.
2 words. No, I'm just kidding. I heard fierce. I heard fierce
kindness and confidence. There it is.
There. Okay, that's
Can we have 3?
Yeah, you did.
All right.
That counts.
Mm-hmm. English teachers. Just kidding.
We like words,
We
okay?
We like the word.
We don't know about math, so I don't know why you would even put a number on this paper.
Yes.
But something I admire about Kim is she, and her leadership specifically, is so driven to build success in others. And sometimes it means responding to any situation with what that situation needs. And so she's almost like a chameleon in that she can, I don't want to say code switch, but she can fill whatever role the situation requires. And so sometimes that is kindness and empathy. Sometimes that is servant leadership. Sometimes that is hard truth delivered in a kind way and in a respectful way. She's very purposeful, and she's so thoughtful and intentional with the way that she approaches the people that she serves, her school, her job, her life. And I respect that about her.
This question makes me realize how much we actually talk.
We talk a lot.
Because I was thinking,
multiple
how do
times
you
a
know
week.
that? But then I'm like, oh, wait, I told you about this thing. And then I told you about that thing.
Yeah,
And then that thing. So never mind.
As previously stated, I cold call you in the morning.
time. Yes, we do.
All right. So have either of you had any other female mentors who have shaped your leadership approach?
Oh,
I mean, her,
that's
right?
one. I'm here.
Obviously.
I often use the phrase good people a lot in emails. I'm like, good
Hey, good people.
Hey, good people.
Hello. I've already name dropped 2 people.
You have. That's okay.
Sorry.
I've had some anti-mentors, some women who I have been around that I don't want to model that, right? And so I think that's just as powerful as mentors.
No, I think you're right though. I think, and I've said time and again that we often learn more from the folks we don't want to emulate. Like I will never lead in such a way. So no, I think that can be just as powerful. But I also want you all to know, and let me just take a moment to say that you all inspire me in such ways. And I learn just as much from you all with each passing year that I hope that I've ever shared with you as your professor and as your mentor, but to watch you out there in the field and really making such a difference in all the lives that you've touched. Just in the few years since you've left this program, I am constantly impressed by both of you. The level of grace and attention that you give to hear both of you say that. I am impressed by Kim because she's compassionate and she's a great listener and she can get in there and do the work that needs to be done. Being echoed also by Kim for Katie, the two of you have been such a natural fit for one another and such incredible ambassadors for Longwood and for our leadership program in particular. So I couldn't finish this podcast without saying how much I adore both of you. And I'm an equal fangirl to your relationship that has continued to stem and grow and flourish over the years. So I guess I'm wondering if there's a piece of advice that you might give to other women who might be considering school leadership.
Jump in 2 feet.
Yeah, I agree.
Just do it.
It's definitely rewarding. And I think if you're able to find a balance between, not balance, rhythm, because then I have that quote in my office, don't seek balance, find rhythm.
Yep.
And I don't know where I got it, somewhere, but it's in my office and I share with people.
I love that.
The trying to balance everything, something's gonna fall off. But if you get into a rhythm and just start, if you're interested or curious, just start. And that's half the battle is just getting going.
I think sometimes there is a false perception that leadership is, even in schools, somehow is really male dominated. And I think sometimes that can be a little intimidating or off-putting, but I don't think it's true. My school system is run by a female superintendent. We have, 5 directors, 3 or 4 of which are female. Like, there's more women doing this work than people think. And good women, like all of those people who I just mentioned without naming, good people doing hard, good work. And if you're thinking maybe I want that path, you're in good company.
Absolutely. And Katie, you're involved with Women Education Leaders in Virginia, or WELV. So why do you think it might be important to have spaces dedicated to women in leadership?
Because it can be intimidating. And especially, this is a bad example, but walking into a room, I'm at the high school level, obviously we hit that, but walking into a room where we're talking about some heavy topics related to school athletics, and it's male principal, male athletic director, male coaches, and it's easy to feel out of place, right? And so having not a dedicated, but having a group of people who are like you, who have lived experiences like you and can understand that perspective and also see things from 2 lenses, right? The human lens and then the school leader lens.
I'm on a team. Our administrative team is of APs. It's me now, 3 other males, and my principal is a female. And it's fun. I enjoy that dynamic because I learn their thought process, and then I get to share my thought process. And it's a nice balance that we get to kind of work together.
Absolutely. And so you've talked a lot about your own leadership roles, supporting people within those leadership roles and finding support from others and from one another. And so speaking of women in leadership roles, Katie, I believe you are making a transition into a new role for which I am super excited to share. Might I spill the news?
Yeah.
Okay. So early on, at the very beginning of this podcast, when I mentioned that the 2 of you, I was really excited because the 2 of you came from my program. So you might remember back in 2017, I was hired to redevelop and rebrand the master's program in educational leadership, which I lovingly did. You all were the first cohort pilot, and Katie took pilot classes when we were first just developing the idea of the program, of changing it and making it more relevant and flexible and purposeful for our leaders. And so what I said earlier was slightly misleading because it was my program. I served as the program director since 2017. And I am delighted to announce that I am going to be handing the baton over to a very qualified candidate who knows the program intimately, who prides herself on building capacity in others and developing relationships across all stakeholders, forming a committee even and involving all stakeholders in such a way that I have no fear, no nervousness, no anxiety about the direction in which this program will continue to grow. And so, Dr. Jamrozy-Hamby, I am delighted to share with our listeners today that you will be joining Longwood faculty as Program Director of Educational Leadership. And I cannot tell you how much that excites me. So please, if you'd like to share a couple of words here, but Kim and I are geeking out.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you for this.
So excited too.
This is so great.
I'm excited. I know it's going to be excellent. And it was a really hard choice because I love my job.
I know.
And you don't get into this line of work if you don't love your job. And by this line of work, I mean both program director of an educational leadership master's at the university level and building level leadership work in our pre-K-12 institutions. You have to be so excited about all of those things to do that work. And so it was a really hard decision that came a lot earlier in my career than I expected it to, but I'm so glad it did because I think it's going to be a really great move. Longwood is poised right in the middle of Region 8. And so we have an opportunity to really impact the Commonwealth and all of our school systems, but some direct impact on the local schools too, and getting good people ready to do the hard work. And I'm excited for that.
Well, we are so excited to have you join us in this capacity. I know that sometimes, as Kim mentioned earlier, those doors, you don't necessarily know where they might lead. And sometimes those doors might open sooner than you had anticipated. But hearing you all today and sharing all of the ways that you have been prepared makes me confident that you are going to absolutely crush it. And I'm so excited to see where the program goes under your leadership. And so, Kim, I'm wondering too, your future goals or career aspirations, because you just keep doing some incredible work out there too. So what's next for Kim Van Acker?
Oh my gosh. My principal kind of said the same thing recently. I was like, what? I'm not ready for that. She's like, yeah, no.
You are.
Stop. And so I was selected to be a part of our principal cohort for this year. So we get to do a rigorous program. And I'm like, do I really want to do this?
You do.
You do.
And so who knows? I feel like I'm the kind of person that kind of digs her heels in and I get rooted and I'm like, I want to be here for the next 3 years. I want to see this 6th grade class go to 8th grade. I'm with these families. I've established all of these relationships. I'm getting in with the advocates. So it's like I'm speaking their language. I know what to say to keep the conversation going and make progress. And so I really want to continue on with that. And yet I know I have to push myself outside of my comfort zone. My own personal children are 12 and 16. So like getting ready for junior year and 7th grade. So we're getting ready
Those
to
are
talk
big
about
years.
college. So,
Yes.
we're already there if that's what he wants to do.
Has he considered Longwood University?
I was thinking
Let's
about
talk about a
way.
master's degree.
Can you bring a football team here? Lacrosse? Like if you can
Does that interest you in rugby?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
See. And so I want to also continue to be able to have that flexibility and the availability to support all of their things, whatever they decide.
Absolutely.
As they continue to decide them. So I don't know. I know my place is in a school building. So like central office level things have never really been of interest to me. Remember, I was not even going to be an assistant principal. So
And now she is.
And now
so I don't know if this is foreshadowing to a superintendent level career. We'll talk about it later.
So we'll see. I don't want to close myself off from any opportunities. I also want to feel like I'm ready.
Well, and we've talked about closed doors and open doors, and you never count out that trap door that you just walk over and it opens, and there you're
like,
something new has
my
happened.
gosh. Here's the leadership position.
Yeah. About that.
Well, I know we will definitely see more incredible things from Kim Van Acker. I know it. I know it. Okay, so I think we really should wrap up, even though I could sit here and talk to both of you for the next 8 hours. You all are so amazing, but I want to wrap up kind of creatively here. So you have mentioned that wouldn't it be cool if we had like started a school together? I'm pretty sure that's the best idea I've ever heard. So if you were to start a school together, what would it look like?
never talked about this, and I think this is a great time.
I've
I
talked
think so
about it
too.
in my head. I don't know if that counts.
What would it look like?
I don't know. It would just be this place where people, students, families, community, it's a community-centered place. And I think it's a school where every type of learner feels represented, whether they are reserved, whether they are like the go-getter and they're making apps and they're like doing stem cell research. Any kind of learner can find a place in our school. And I think it's one that has family involvement of all kinds and student voice. And I know we say that a lot, but they are able to kind of craft their own way. And I think a lot of, for me, it comes from watching my kids navigate school too, and that they are very curious and have had a range of experiences where at some point they loved school and then they stopped loving school.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a place where there's space for that, where you're not going to always enjoy it, but productive struggle is embraced. And I try to do that. I'm like, this is not going to be easy. You're going to have to do the work. And I want you to know that the work is going to pay off for you eventually.
And a place where we can remove the noise and the barriers that sometimes prevent some of our students from getting to a place where they can learn, where they can step out of that comfort zone and into that like push, challenge, learning zone, because maybe we've removed some barriers. You don't have water at home? That's fine. We got a laundromat. Go do your laundry.
I was just about
You need
to
some
say that.
cereal? Let's go to the kitchen. Whatever the thing is, if we can provide that for some kiddos,
I
a
want-
space where they can be.
It's a space, not that I am excited that some kids don't want to go home on
Sure.
at the end of the day or over the weekend.
Maybe they
over
don't
the
need to. We can
summer.
have dorms.
We could.
We
It could
could.
be like a boarding school, but
But
kind of
having-
like
Not everyone has to sleep in the dorms, but
Yeah.
if we've got students who have a need, let's fill it.
I'm all about see a need, fill it. That's the radio calls and there's a spill in the classroom and we know it's lunchtime and we have 2 custodians.
Can I interest you in a work order?
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I got it. I'll go do it.
So that's our school.
I love it. And I would send my kid to your school immediately.
Oh my
So
gosh.
once it's up and running, you all let me know because I'm ready to enroll.
Locked us into that.
Done.
So that's what's happening next for Kim Van Acker. But I'm so sorry. Katie Jamrozy-Hamby, you cannot. You have just
have a job.
committed to a really amazing job.
Can I do 2 things?
You can do 2
You could
things.
be on my board of supervisors.
Perfect.
Yeah, you need an advisory board at least. I love it so much.
Active research, right?
Yes, and continued professional development.
Definitely.
Model school.
Connection to the school community.
Model school.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, it has been an absolute delight talking with you all today. And I cannot thank you enough for your willingness to share, to be vulnerable, but also to showcase to our listeners what just incredible humans you are and all the wonderful work that you're continuing to do out in your schools and in your communities. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. This was time.
3rd time's the charm.
I love it. I know we've had some scheduling issues, but to have you all on here today and in person,
Yeah, this is
oh,
great. This is
it
good.
has filled my cup. So thank you
really
so
good.
much for making the commute and
Yes.
also for your time today. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. We will catch you next time on Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Longwood GradCast Beyond the Degree. We hope today's story has left you inspired to reflect on your own path and the steps that brought you here. Remember, every journey starts with a single step, and we are here to support yours. Explore our graduate programs and professional endorsements at longwood.edu/grad programs. And stay tuned for more stories that remind us leadership is in our blood. Is it in yours?